Welcome to another episode of EV Rider. This week we've got something unusual. We've got a 1974 Super Beetle, but it's got the heart of a Tesla in the sense of the battery pack that Mark Gilbert here has put into it as he has converted the old air-cooled VW into a modern-day EV. Mark, what made you decide to turn this classic into an EV?
Well, I retired about 5 years ago, and I was an aircraft mechanic, but I didn't have a strong electrical background, and I'd been watching videos by this guy named Jehu Garcia, and he's out in California, and he's closely associated with EV West, and he's got a 1957 Samba bus that he converted, and I followed his videos for a couple years before I even thought about making a move. And when it finally came time to do it, I ran across this article on a Super Beetle that this guy in Texas had made, and he runs a company called Hawkeye Innovations, LLC. So I got with him, and we kind of teamed up and decided on what parts we were going to use and how much it was going to cost. And he was also going to offer some technical assistance if I got in a jam. So I pretty much decided that I was going to go in that direction. Okay, in the front here, we have the reservoir tank for the motor controller chill plate, the Tesla Model S pump that goes down and goes through the tunnel and goes all the way to the back where the motor is. And this is your charging port up here. It's a J1772 standard type 2 charging port. I had to relocate the 12-volt battery up here because I actually have Tesla modules in the floor that take up the space where this used to go. In the car, we have a Prius pedal to send the signal to the controller, but we also have a motorcycle e-bike throttle with a friction lock and then a switch to switch between the two throttles. And this thumb throttle right here is for regen, so I can dial in regen with my thumb. The throttle mapping is the same for both throttles. I don't have two separate maps. So that throttle's slower response, this one's faster response. So like on a Tesla, when you have a chill mode, so the pedal would be my chill mode, like being in traffic or parking lots or whatever. And then this is your not quite ludicrous mode, but somewhere in between chill and ludicrous.
So this is a thrill. Mark has graciously allowed me to take a drive in his EV Beetle. Now, right now we're in a neighborhood, so I can't floor it yet. But one of the first things that's so cool about an EV is even with a manual transmission, there's no need to shift. So I'm in second gear. I don't really need to shift at all, but if I wanted to, I could.
You're driving on the Prius pedal right now, but I have a motorcycle e-bike throttle down here with a thumb throttle that I can use for regen. I can just dial in, and it sends a signal back to the controller telling it how much regen I want. I think I have the regen set for a max of 30%. Which, if you're going about 40 miles an hour, that'll give you about 80 amps back into your battery.
All right, so now I'm switching over to his motorcycle throttle, and what a difference compared to the old air-cooled Beetles.
Well, it's 3 times the power, so it's not blistering fast, but it's way faster than the 40 horsepower gas engine that came in this thing, as you can tell.
Well, I got to tell you, this is a wonderful conversion. I think a motorcycle throttle is actually more enjoyable than a pedal. What's the furthest you've driven in it so far?
Okay, I've done a couple trips of about 90 miles, and most of that was not over 60 miles an hour, so I still had 20% battery left.
For someone that might want to go ahead and do a conversion but use high-performance street tires, what do you think this car could do sustained on the interstate?
Oh, I've had it, before I put the off-road tires on it, I've had it over 90 miles an hour in third gear.
In third gear.
Yeah.
Of course, if you went to fourth, it would, in theory, spin the motor just a little bit less.
Yeah, I think I went into a couple calculators and I saw a theoretical 140 miles an hour in fourth gear, but you have to take into account wind resistance and all that. And these Beetles aren't the most aerodynamic cars in the world. So
here's going to be something a little bit fun. I'm going to go ahead and shift. So I put the clutch all the way in. I've gone to third gear. And the beauty is, this car doesn't give a hoot about me changing gears.
Okay, RPMs dropped to 2,200. They were probably up about close to 4.
So it does actually make a difference. And so let's go all the way to 4th, because we're not going to be able to stall it out anyway. I'm doing approximately 25 and
1,300.
So it does make a difference. Why EV versus gas?
Well, when I first got this car, the gas engine wasn't running, so I got it running just so I could evaluate it to sell it. And I didn't realize what a miserable experience it is driving a gas-powered VW.
Or you had forgotten.
Just so close, yeah, because I had driven them like 40 years earlier. So I decided, we're just gonna take a risk and see what driving it. And I wanted to learn what EV cars were all about. And the best way to do that is just dive in and start experimenting.
And of course, Beetles are one of the easiest conversions to do, because most people are not going to worry about things like air conditioning and heat. So I do want to point out to viewers, this is far from a modern car. It doesn't have power steering. It doesn't have a lot of the amenities that modern cars have. In fact, you don't even have a radio in this car. Let me ask you this, for somebody that might want to do a conversion but add modern amenities, say for example they had a Camaro and they wanted power steering, they wanted air conditioning and you know, Android Auto and all the rest, how hard would that be to pull off?
It probably wouldn't be that bad. One of the selling points of the guy in Texas that I'm working with, Hawkeye Innovations, his systems control module can be set up for different case uses. Like if you have power steering and all that, he can put in relays into the box that'll power all that stuff up.
So would he literally customize it to the specs?
In fact, the box I'm using is what he calls his basics box, which is what most VWs use because they don't have power steering or power brakes and all that. But if you need all that stuff, in fact, I think he's done like Toyota Celicas that have accessories that need to be run, and he'll build that box to meet whatever your needs are. And I put a 12-volt display in here, and I can actually see my DC converter working now. So when I turn the key on, it'll read like 12 volts, and then as soon as the contactor goes, the DC converter comes on, and then that starts reading like 13.9 volts. So it's just like being in a car when your alternator starts picking up. Okay, so a battery underneath each seat, or a module if you want to call it, and then back here we have the remaining 3 modules. And this is kind of an unconventional setup, which a lot of people wouldn't approve of because there's no battery box other than a shield. So this is my BMS. This is a Orion 2. It's got 30 cells that it's reading. And then this is my Hawkeye Innovations LLC systems control module. And this controls all the key on stuff, like you turn your key on and it wakes this up, and it also wakes the controller up, and then it starts the process for energizing the contactor in the back for the motor. And then when you're charging, it also enables this to talk to the charging cord.
It's a Tesla pack.
Okay, 5 modules out of a Model S, approximately 27 kilowatts, and that's good for about 100 miles.
Okay, what would you say your total weight on the Beetle is?
Okay, before I did the off-road stuff, it was running right around 2,000 pounds, so the car actually gained about 160 pounds with all the electric stuff. And then since then I've done off-road tires and a body lift, and I'm calculating that at about 100 pounds, so it's sitting right around 2,100 pounds.
Dude, love the sound of it.
Oh yeah, everybody's like, oh, your car's so quiet. I said, not when you're sitting in it, it's not. It's singing to you back there. I said, you got the world's biggest drill motor back there. Okay, in the engine bay back here, we have the second cooling system with a reservoir tank, Model S pump, going to the heat exchangers in the front grill. This is your DC converter. It keeps your 12-volt battery charged. This is your onboard charger. This one just happens to be a 3.3, but I have a 6.6 waiting to go in. So your motor consists of a Hyper 9 motor with their integrated controller and the contactor, so you get this all as a package.
So I'm guessing a lot of people don't have a true sense of how involved a conversion process like this is. But let's start with the question everybody is going to want to know. How much to do a conversion like this?
Bought the car for $6,000, not running, Ended up getting a lot of parts in about a month that were sitting on my workbench at my house, and this is when it really started to sink in. I just spent about 16 grand on batteries, motor, wiring, and then all the associated boxes that come with it, like the BMS and stuff like that. And I'm looking at this pile of parts, and I'm like, I'm not really sure how this is gonna go.
About how many years has this process taken?
Okay, I'm currently in about 2.5 years away from when I first started.
For a traditional restorer, somebody that maybe's put a crate motor in, say, an old Chevelle and, really fixed it up, put maybe disc brakes, things like that. Do you think somebody with that type of knowledge can tackle a project like this?
Probably, because I just had basic electric knowledge, doing stuff around my house, running outlets, upgrading stuff around my house. I just did a lot of YouTube research, and then my guy in Texas was always there if I needed to talk to him about how to do this with the batteries, or how to set the BMS up, or stuff like that.
There's something about a classic car that you just can't replicate in an EV. So I think we're going to see more and more restorations that include a switchover to EV, because when it comes to performance and driving enjoyment, EVs are just the way to go. I've had a wonderful time getting to check out Mark's Super Beetle, and I hope you did as well. So if you enjoyed this episode of EV Rider, please give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can bring you more adventures in EV motoring. And we'll see you again soon for another episode.